Hey, and welcome back to part 2 of the current episode. Thank you for joining us today. And as always, we really appreciate every one of you who's out there listening to us each and every week. Hey, if you like the show, tell your friends. If you don't like the show, tell your friends anyway. They might have better taste than you. So I want to I'm going to address this first topic to my good friends out there in the occupied People's Republic of California and any other slave state. If you're in a slave state and you're listening to me, go ahead and pay attention to this as well. But we get a lot of emails, we get a lot of Facebook messages, a lot of different ways that people contact us throughout the week and the month and so forth. And I've gotten enough of these letters and requests that I thought rather than addressing them individually, I just go ahead and take the time here on Student of the Gun Radio and address the situation all at one time. And that is, my friends in California, it seems to be mostly California, but there are other states as well who will write to me and say, hey, I live in California and I'm not allowed to X, or we're forbidden to Y, and we can't blah, blah, blah. But what should I do instead? Or I'll give you a good example. I live in California, and we're forbidden to carry concealed, but I think that everyone should be allowed to carry concealed, and I do it anyway. Should I do that? Or should I just go ahead and carry anyway? Well, here's the deal, folks. Paul Markle not stupid. I'm not going to write you a letter or an email or a Facebook message that says, screw those guys, break the law, do what you want. It's not going to happen. I cannot give you permission to violate your state or your city or your county's laws and regulations. So don't ask me. Don't ask me to give you permission to break the law. If you feel that where you live, that the law is wrong, you have two options. Well, actually, you have three options. Number one, you can fight against it. You can, through petitions, you can introduce bills, you can call your senators, your legislators, you can do that. Okay, you can sit there and you can actively campaign against the law or the people who pass these laws that you feel are wrong. That's your right as a citizen still at this moment in time. Number two, you can move. You can say, you know what? I don't agree with the laws of Colorado, California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York. I'm going to take my family, my tax money, and I'm going to move somewhere else. You can do that. Now, your third option is to just sit and spin. Oh, well, poor me. I'm sorry. I feel bad. They won't let me. I'm angry. And you can just complain on Facebook about it. And that is the option that most people take. The option most people take is, well, I don't like it and it's not fair, so I'm going to post Facebook and Twitter messages, and I'm going to go on the, Gun Talk or Glock Talk or XD Talk or whatever, and I'm going to, talk about how horrible it is. Well, dudes and dudettes, going on Facebook or Twitter or the forums and complaining about how messed up your state is not going to change it. Now you say, well, what good does it do to pack up and leave? That doesn't change it anyway. Well, here's what it does. It takes you out of the mix. It takes your bank account and your money out of the mix. Don't ever discount that fact. Your money means something. For all of the liberal, do-gooder, hippie states that want to give free everything to everyone, free food and free education and free college, free this, free that, free medical care. They want to give all this stuff away for free. Well, here's the deal. In the real world, nothing is free. Someone has to pay for it. And if you are in the occupied People's Republic of California and you're gainfully employed and you have a job, guess what? They're taking your money in the form of taxes and giving it away to other people who either don't want to work or don't care about the system, or, hey, do I need to tell you in California that millions upon millions of your tax dollars are going to educate and give food and welfare to illegal aliens, people who just said, screw the law, I'm going to come to your country and get free stuff? Do I need to tell you that? Well, here's the deal. The only way for you to get away, or you to stop giving them that money, is to take your money and move somewhere else. But don't write letters to Student of the Gun and say, hey, It's illegal for me to do this or that, but I want to do it anyway. Do you think I should? Because I'm not going to give you permission to break the law. Follow the laws where you live. Know the laws and follow them. Now, if you think the laws are wrong, you can either petition to change them, you can move, or you can just complain on Facebook. All right? That being said, we love you out there. We're glad that you're listening. But you know where we would love you even more? We would love if you are a freedom-loving person to take your family and your career and your job and your guns and move into free America. And let me tell you a quick story. This is what happens if you want to know what happens when good people, when hardworking people, when people with jobs and careers abandon a geographic area, because that geographic area has set up the rules against them. Look at Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan is a perfect example of what happens when the liberal city government, Detroit's been run by Democrat mayors for at least 50 years. At least 50 years. I grew up in Detroit. I was born there. I know what I'm talking about. And over the last 30 to 40 years, what has happened is Detroit has become even more, every year becomes more and more of a welfare state, of a welfare city. They punish people who work. They tax the people that work to death to give away free stuff to the people that don't work. Finally, people got sick of it. And thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who work, people who have jobs and families and careers said, enough is enough. I'm leaving Detroit. You cannot have any more of my tax money, Detroit. I'm not going to pay it to you. And they moved away. And what was left and what is left right now? There are some businesses, yes, but there are far more people with their hands out to either take, welfare handouts. We don't want to work. We want a free ride. And Detroit is horrible. It's a cesspool. It's like a third world country. And why is that? And is it the fault of the people who have families and jobs and careers and don't want to give all their money away in handouts and don't want to be extorted by their government? It's not their fault. And you know what? Maybe you need to do that in California. And you say, well, that'll never happen. Then maybe it won't. But if you are really serious about it, take your money and go somewhere else. That's all I'm going to talk about that today. Now, hey, we made a big announcement last week. Last week we kind of had a big announcement. Student of the Gun TV is back on Dish Network. Now, as you hear the sound of my voice, we're not there just yet, but we will be. We've partnered with the Hunt TV channel. Now, if you know anything about satellite, if you know anything about satellite TV, you have your big companies and they purchase airtime on satellite, whether it's Dish or Direct or what have you, and then they fill it with programming, whatever programming they see fit to put on it. Well, there's a channel 266. It's Angel 2 Broadcasting. And what we know about Angel 2 Broadcasting is they are family-friendly programming. It's programming that you would be happy to sit down with your children and your entire family and watch. You would not be embarrassed at what is on their channel. Well, the people at Angel 2 are outdoorsmen, and they're shooters, and they're firearms owners, and they're patriots. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to bring you folks, quality hunting and outdoors type programming. Well, they approached us at Student of the Gun a couple of months ago and asked us about coming on board with their network. We were originally going to go on board in 2014, but the opportunity to put Student of the Gun on Sunday nights at 7, it came up relatively unexpectedly and quickly, and we jumped on it. We went ahead and took the slot. So what you guys will be able to do if you're Dish Network subscribers is you will be able to watch Student of the Gun TV. That's right. Sunday nights at 7 Eastern starting on July 14th. So look forward to that. You can check your dates and listings and all that good stuff. But Student of the Gun, and of course, if you're already signed up for the newsletter, you're already aware of that and you're getting all of our good stuff. Now, this next one came it came from the Student of the Gun mailbag, and it's about being armed on the water or armed in a marine environment. Jared, you wanted to say something about this.
We covered the armed on the water on Student of the Gun TV. If you go to studentofthegun.com, it's in episode 22. And as of right now, what is today? July 5th, as we record this. It is on the homepage at www.studentofthegun.com. And as of July 9th, it'll be on the archives page. It's studentofthegun.com/archives. So you can go there and watch that and see what Paul had to talk about being armed on the water.
Yeah, like, we live in Biloxi, Mississippi, and if you are in or around Biloxi, you deal with maritime issues. There's a lot of water down here. I used to joke with my military friends, a lot of the sailors. There's a big Navy base down here, and there's also a big Air Force base. And I would joke with my sailor buddies. I'd ask them, I said, do they issue you a boat when you're stationed down here? Because everybody I knew that was stationed down here in the Navy had their own personal watercraft. And they used to laugh when they're like, no, but they should. They should issue you a boat. Well, if you know anything about Student of the Gun and how we feel about personal protection, we believe that it's not a sometimes or once in a while affair. You don't have a fire extinguisher in your house occasionally or once in a while. You don't wear your seatbelt sometimes, but sometimes you don't. If you want it to work, for security protocols to be effective, we have to follow them all the time, every time, not just occasionally. And that goes with being armed. Now, a lot of folks are like, well, we're going out on the water, so I'm not going to take my gun out there with me, or I won't carry one because I won't need it. I don't see any reason why I would have to have it. Well, do you see a reason why you would have to have it when you go grocery shopping? Are you planning on having to use it? No, that's not the point. The point is we have it just in case of emergency. Now, could there be times when you're out on the lake, out on the river, out on the ocean, that you would encounter bad people who would rob you, who would harm you, who would steal from you? Well, yeah. And the problem with being out on the water, it's kind of like, when you're out anywhere in the wilderness or camping, people, it's what I've always found just bizarre is the mentality of making, national campgrounds or state campgrounds, forbidding the carrying of guns in them. Like, well, all right, so we're out in the middle of God's green nowhere camping, and some thugs come along and decide they're just going to beat us up and rob us. Am I supposed to call 911 from my phone and say, yeah, I'm 2 miles past the big rock, send help immediately? When you're out in the woods or the wilderness in the great wide open, you are your own 911. And if you're not prepared to deal with whatever emergencies might arise, you're just going to be out of luck. It's just ridiculous. Now, depending on where you live, you may live in an occupied area where you are not allowed to carry. But down here, like we said, number one, Mississippi has a broad castle doctrine. And if you are on your own boat and it is your watercraft, it is an extension of your castle. So if you can legally carry a firearm on your boat, the big question is, well, what should I carry? Now, obviously, a marine or a maritime environment is unique in and of itself. You can expect, hey, if you live in a humid area, having a gun on your boat is the ultimate in humidity and moisture. And standard blue steel is going to rust fast. I can tell you what, brother. Think about it. Is anything on your boat blue steel, or is it all stainless and chrome? Well, obviously, it's either painted, it's stainless, or it's chromed, because if it's not, what's going to happen? It's going to rust almost immediately. If you're a diver and you have a diving knife, how is what is the metal finish on your dive knife? Well, obviously, it's a stainless finish. And that's what you want for your firearms. Now, depending on what you own or possess, there are lots of different finishes. The great thing about modern guns is they're generally made from the factory to be very rust-proof or stainless. The Glock 17, the ubiquitous Glock 17 has been around for years and years and years and is kind of the standard. The Tenifer finish that they put on the slide of a Glock is ridiculously corrosion resistant. It's crazy corrosion resistant. It looks like blue steel, but brother, that ain't blue steel. The middle finish that they put in there is very, very rust free. I don't know how long they've done crazy salt tests where they put it in salt water and just left it there for, weeks on end and so forth. So your basic Glock, and of course the great thing about a Glock is the entire frame is made out of what? Polymer, right? Guess what? Polymer doesn't rust. Polymer doesn't corrode. Now, are there parts inside of your Glock that may rust if it gets submerged? Yes, obviously. But we're talking generally about surface rust. Now, if your gun goes for a swim, if you decide for whatever reason by whether it's deliberate or accidental, if your gun goes for a swim, as soon as it is practical, you're going to need to take that thing down, strip it down, and clean all the components, all the parts inside, because you don't want one little important spring or pin to get rust on it, do you? No, you don't. How about the modern version of the Smith & Wesson model M&P? Again, just like the Glock, the M&P from the factory, because it's a duty gun. Now, they build these for cops, and they know cops are going to carry them a whole lot, shoot them a little bit, but they're always going to be exposed to the weather. They're going to go in and out from the heat to the cold, from the air conditioning to the heat. And the M&P 9, which I like the M&P a lot, is, again, like the Glock. It has a polymer frame. It has a slide that is treated to be rust resistant, and is a very corrosion resistant finish. Any of those. And, there's lots of others out there, but those two right there are very corrosion resistant. I had somebody ask me, they're like, well, I keep a Pocket 380, under the console or what have you. And is that a good idea? Well, it's not a bad idea, but if you got a gun on a boat, deep concealment is not really your concern. You don't need, it's not like you're going to the grocery store and you need to hide it so nobody can see it. A full-size gun is what you want, because number one, a full-size gun is easier to control, to handle, and to shoot accurately. Think about it like that. If you went to the range just for fun, you went with your buddies, and they set out a little Keltec P32 and a Glock 17. They're like, you can have as much ammo for either one of these as you want to shoot. Have fun. Well, which one would you probably spend the most time with? I mean, probably the Glock 17, right? Because it's more comfortable, it's easier to hit with, and it doesn't have as much felt recoil. Now, is there a place in the world for the little P32? Yeah, obviously there is. But if concealment is not a factor, don't go with little guns. There's no point in it. You don't really gain anything by having a little tiny gun. And think about it like this, for the M&P or the Glock, if you're out on the water and you have to get a gun out, you're having a bad day. Something's gone wrong. And remember, you are your own 911. The police or the sheriff's deputy or the troopers or what have you, it's going to be a long time probably before they get to you. You're going to have to solve whatever problem arises yourself before the authorities can get there. They're going to come to take the investigation, to do the investigation later. But it's not like there's a cop right around the corner when you're out in the woods or out on the water. So rather than, have a 6-shot Pocket 380, I would feel a little bit more confident having a 17-shot Glock 17 in my hand. That's just me. Now, what about long guns? What about shotguns and rifles? A standard blue steel shotgun obviously is going to rust pretty quickly out there. Mossberg makes what they call their Mariner, which is a stainless steel gun. And why do they do that? Well, they make it because it is rust resistant. Now, there's a big difference between rust resistant and rust proof. There are a lot of guns that are quote unquote stainless that you can put in your gun safe, close it up, and open it in a year, and they're pitted, and you're like, whoa, what happened here? You want to make sure that they're properly oiled and lubricated and so forth. Take care of your equipment, and it'll take care of you. Modern rifles, Wilson Combat does a fantastic coating called their Armor Tough. The Armor Tough coating on Wilson Combat rifles is very, very rust resistant. And the great thing about the modern AR-15 or AR platform style rifle is that it has a lot of machined aluminum and polymer, and a small amount of steel. It's steel where it needs to be steel, but most of the body is either aluminum or it's polymer, and neither one of those things will rust, so they should treat you well. So if you're going to be out on the water and you're going to be armed on the water, I would recommend, just rather than, going to the trouble of taking a blue steel gun and trying to do something else with it, I would just go ahead and get a modern polymer frame striker fired gun like the Glock 17 or the M&P or any of the other ones that are available, and just drive on. Because even the Glock magazines, Glock magazines have metal springs, but the magazine itself is polymer, so it's not going to rust. So it's really hard to argue with that logic. Now, keep in mind, if you've got a gun on your boat, don't just throw it in the compartment underneath the wheel and forget about it. Every once in a while, you might want to pull that thing out and look at it. And here's a little asterisk for you guys: ammunition. Remember, standard brass cartridge cases are going to eventually corrode. The weather's going to get to them. So if you're going to spend the money, you might want to spend the money on the nickel cased ammunition that is naturally a little bit more expensive. But if it's going to be exposed to heat and humidity, it's not going to turn green on you, because green ammunition doesn't work quite as well. So keep those things in mind. Now, one of our new friends, the guys at Frog Lube, you guys may have heard of Frog Lube. A lot of you out there might have, but if you haven't, I want you to take a moment to investigate them. Frog Lube is a company that is owned by a retired U.S. Navy SEAL, and they make gun cleaning products for the modern, sportsman, law enforcement, military, what have you. What's unique about Frog Lube products is it's not a petroleum-based product. And petroleum-based products, if you know anything about petroleum-based gun oils, is when the gun gets hot, they essentially bake off. They go away. And they don't stay on the guns forever. You have to keep reapplying them. When I was over in the desert, I spent some time in the desert when I was in the Marine Corps. And I had a Beretta sidearm. And like most Berettas that we were issued, most of the bluing on the barrel had worn off. And so we were continuously, tearing the guns down, cleaning them, and oiling them. And it seemed like I was fighting a never-ending war with my barrel to keep it from rusting, even though every single time I tore the gun down, disassembled it, cleaned it, I would lube it up. I would put CLP, which was our standard issue, the standard issue break-free CLP. I would put that on the barrel, assemble the gun, load it, put it back in the holster. And if I didn't have the time or opportunity to deal with it or reapply the CLP for a day or two, it would end up with rust on it. And it was very, very maddening and frustrating. And what Frog Lube does is it's green, so it kind of looks froggy, it's actually it's a food grade. It's a food grade product, meaning it's not toxic. You could eat it. Now, I don't think you'd want to, but you could, and it wouldn't harm you. But what the Frog Lube does is it gets into the pores of the metal. And actually, the hotter the gun gets, the better it is, because when the gun gets hot, the Frog Lube gets even deeper into the pores of the steel, and it coats it, and it stays there. And I'm not going to get too deep into the Frog Lube product, but what you guys might want to do is go to froglube.com and you check those out. And if you go there and if you buy their products or you send them letters or whatever, let them know that you heard about them on Student of the Gun Radio. Like I said, they are our new buddies, our new friends. We just actually, I met Larry, the owner of Frog Lube, a few weeks ago here in Biloxi, Mississippi. And he gave me kind of the lowdown. I had to admit to him, I said, I've heard about Frog Lube. I know the name, but I've never had the opportunity to really, use it. And he said, well, here, he gave me a couple little samples, and I started using them. And we went to the range. What did we do? We had a 223 rifle, a new 223. We were filming for the new season. And I coated the bolt in Frog Lube, and we ran the snot out of that gun. We ran it until the barrel was so hot you couldn't touch it. And true to its form, we didn't have any malfunctions. And I just checked the gun the other day, and it's rust free, and it's looking good. So it looks like Frog Lube is going to work out well. And that takes us kind of right back into the corrosion the corrosion question, rust, and so forth. Now, we had another mailbag question about using corrosive ammo. And there's a lot of military surplus ammunition out there, and most of it comes from the Soviet bloc countries that is corrosive. Now, it's not shooting. A lot of people think that it's old black powder ammo. It's not black powder ammunition. What it is it has a corrosive primer. Now, you say, well, that's dumb. Why would anyone have corrosive primers? Well, the corrosive primers back during the Cold War, actually up until the 1950s, the United States military used ammunition with corrosive primers. Corrosive primers were very, very reliable, and they could be put away for long-term storage. And I'm not talking long-term as a year. I'm talking long-term as decades. They could be stored for decades upon decades and still be relied upon. Yeah, did you know that? Did you realize that your great-grandfather or your grandfather fought World War II using 100% corrosive ammunition? That's right. It was all corrosive back then. It had corrosive primers. No, it wasn't black powder. It was smokeless powder. Now, I've had people say, oh, that's just the worst thing you could possibly do for your gun is to buy corrosive ammo because it's going to ruin it. 2 shots of that and it's going to. Well, dudes, if that was the case, how did we fight all of World War I and World War II with corrosive primer ammo? Did all of our Marines and our GIs and did their Springfields and their Garands and their Thompsons, did they all just rust and fall apart? Or all those Garands and all those World War II guns, they're all gone now, right? Because they rusted and they're ruined and they fell apart. Oh, no, you mean they still exist? Because the guys who owned them, the guys who used them, who were issued those guns, actually cleaned them once in a while? That is the trick. Americans, modern men, don't like to clean guns. And when you tell them that after you shoot it, you're going to have to take a little bit of time and clean it, they're like, oh, forget that. If I'm going to have to clean this thing, I'm done. I'm not using it. But you say, well, today you will encounter, like I said, surplus ammunition, mostly from the Soviet bloc countries, that has corrosive primers. The great thing about it is you can find it, it's usually very, very economical. So you can shoot a whole lot if you don't mind taking the extra time to clean your gun. And if you use now, what I've been shooting black powder revolvers and also muzzle loading rifles and so forth for a long time, and probably 15, not 20 years ago, but at least 15 years ago, when I started shooting black powder revolvers, cap and ball revolvers of the Civil War era. I read an article by John Taffin, and John Taffin, a lot of you guys know him as the Six Gunner. And he just recommended, what he said is after he shot his guns, he would douse them with Windex. That's right, window cleaner, the blue window cleaner. Now, you want the stuff that has ammonia in it. Everybody's all hip to be green and everything today, and they make window cleaner that has no ammonia in it. No, you want the ammonia. And what John would do is he said, look, I disassemble them, and I take the blue window cleaner, and I just spray them down like crazy with the blue window cleaner. And that gets the corrosive salts from the black powder, gets that off of the guns. And then what you have to do is you wipe those down, clean it all down, get all that Windex and the grime and black and nastiness off there. And after you've done that, then liberally apply gun oil so that it gets on the metal. And I've done that for years and years and years. And before I sat down to talk to you guys on the radio today, what I did is I did a little bit of research about frog lube and corrosive ammo. And what I found is guys were recommending that before, not after, but if you're going to shoot corrosive ammo and you know you're going to, what they would do is strip the guns down, get all of the petroleum-based oil off of them, very liberally coat them and clean them with the frog lube, and then go ahead and use them. Because like I said, the more you use it, the hotter it gets, the more the frog lube actually gets into the pores of the metal. And they're using the frog lube product to kind of prep the guns before they shoot corrosive ammo in them. And then afterwards, they scrub them down and so forth. So think about that. Corrosive ammo can be inexpensive or a less expensive way to shoot. A lot of times, especially in the current situation that we're in 2013, where ammo is hard to find, if you can find 7.62 by 39 or .545 or 7.62 by 54. If you can find it at all, and even though it's corrosive, you might want to just pick it up because it'll give you, something to shoot rather than having to wait in line and just buy one single box of ammo at your local gun shop. So keep that in mind. I've been shooting corrosive ammo for a long time, but you need to understand if you're shooting it that you need to actually clean the gun. You can't just shoot it, and take the gun, throw it up in the gun safe, and forget about it for a month. Nope. You actually have to clean it. I know. You're like, well, forget it. If I have to clean my gun, I'm not going to do it. Now, this next subject came up here recently, and it wasn't because someone asked me. It was actually something that I saw on it was a question that someone had put forward on one of the forums or what have you. But it was about, well, can I train, and if I buy enough DVDs, if I buy enough books, can I train myself to be a good shooter? Can I train myself to conceal carry? And from a practical standpoint, the answer really is no. You can't train yourself. Now, before we get too deep into this, let's go ahead and define. Thank you very much. It's easy for me to say. Let's go ahead and define training versus practice. From a very practical standpoint, training is what you do under the watchful eye of an experienced instructor, somebody whose job it is to teach. And that is where you go. You train under them. They teach you what to do. Now, after you've been taught that thing, whatever it happens to be, whether it's riding a motorcycle or shooting a gun, swimming, whatever, after you've been taught that, then you go back to wherever, your hometown or your home range or what have you, and that is when you practice. Practice is something that you do on your own, in your own time, after you've been trained. And this is where men fall into the big trap. Before they go to schools, guys will say, well, I don't want to go to a school because I'm not good enough. Or I need to practice a lot more before I go to the school. No, dude, you're missing the point. The whole purpose of going to the school is so that you will learn what to do. And when if you decide that you're going to go out to your home range and you're going to shoot up 500 rounds in practice before you go to a training school, if you're doing something other than what they teach, what you've done is you've done 500 repetitions of the wrong thing. And now you're going to have to unlearn that before you start doing it right. Now, you might not be 100% wrong, but let's say you're going to a school. Let's just say that, for instance, you're going to a sporting clay school. You want to learn to shoot sporting clays like a champ. And you've never done it, but you want to do it, and you want to shoot like a champ. But before you go, you're just like, well, I'm going to buy a case of 12 gauge. And I'm going to go out to the local range, and I'm going to shoot, a case of 12 gauge in practice and warm up. Well, when you get there, they're going to teach you how to do it. And if you've been doing it the opposite way, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to struggle to try and eliminate the bad habits. And that's why a lot of female students are really good students, because they don't come to the class with a bunch of preconceived notions or a bunch of bad habits. Women, it's funny, when you talk to, if you're at a gun show or gun shop or what have you, you'll talk to a woman and she'll say, well, I want to buy a gun, but I think I should get some training first. And men are the complete polar opposite to that. Men are like, I'm buying a new gun, and if I ever get the time, sometime, maybe I'll get some training, but I'm good. I know what I'm doing. You know who you are out there. You're listening. But training is what you do under the watchful eye of an instructor, and practice is what you do afterwards. Now, so it really is not, you can't train yourself. Now, you can practice yourself and you can educate yourself. Now, there's a difference. Training generally involves something physical, performing a physical task or mental and physical tasks all at the same time. Now, you can educate yourself, and I would highly recommend that you educate yourself by reading. Actually read a book. Now, you can buy DVDs, and that's good because men are visual, and human beings, like to see things. They like to see action. But books stimulate thought. even in 2013, it is still a good idea every once in a while to grab one of those archaic paper things and flip through it and use your eyeballs to comprehend the words and feed your brain. Reading stimulates thought. And that's a great thing about the modern, what we've got available to us in the modern world. We have, e-books that you can instantly put on your little tablet or what have you. You can read them anywhere you want to. You can order books, almost anything you want. It's not like you have to go to the store and stand in line. Geez, all you have to do is click on a little link and bam, the book is sent to you in 3 days. It's crazy. And DVDs are good as well. But unfortunately, what a lot of men, some women too, I guess, but men are really guilty of this, is they think that they can buy enough DVDs to train themselves. And they buy the DVDs and they try and emulate what they see on the DVDs at their local range. And that's fine. But what you don't understand is you're not watching yourself. You can't see the subtle mistakes that you are making because you can't see yourself. You don't watch yourself. You don't know. And you're like, well, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Well, you could be that much better if you'd spend some time with a qualified coach or an instructor. Don't be lazy. Take the training. You don't have to take training every month or every year even. But what you should do is you need to leave your little comfortable pond. Just like muscles. Muscles do not grow. They do not expand. They do not strengthen if you do the same thing over and over again. You have to test your muscles. You have to push them. How do we build muscle? You build muscle actually by tearing the tissue, and then it repairs itself and it's larger. And what you need to do is eventually get out of your comfort zone. I know people don't like to do it, and that's a tough thing about it. But you need to deliberately leave your little pond, your little comfort zone, go somewhere else, and you'll be amazed at the world that is opened up to you. And not only that, I'm going to throw you a little bone right here. And this is something, if you're a pro-gun guy, especially in the modern world, if you're a pro-gun person, if you're a concealed carry person, if you believe in the Constitution, you may live in an area where you don't run into a lot of people that are like you. You may work in an office building somewhere or at a job where you encounter hippies and liberals and they think guns are bad and people who own guns are crazy and so forth. And you're like, how do I stand being around these people? If you go to a gun school, what you get to do for a weekend or a week is you get to spend time with like-minded individuals. With people, you're like, man, I thought I was the only one on the planet that felt this way. And here, there are other people that think the way I do. That's a good place to go and just have a conversation with somebody who actually thinks and feels the same way that you do. It's refreshing. It's nice. It's good to get out of your pond and to see, wow, other people are dealing with the same issues that I'm dealing with. So, take the time to go to a school, get some training, and then after you've been trained, you can go back to your home and you can practice. And the great thing about training is the more training you take, the more experience you have, the better able you will be to make good decisions. Or, and this is something that we get a lot. We get questions about, well, and we're going to go right into what we call our no-shoot situations. And we weren't able to get to this last week because we ran out of time. But people say, how do I know? I was out this week and I saw this happen and I wasn't sure what I should do. Is it legal? Am I allowed to intervene? Should I not intervene? If I do, will I get in trouble? What do I have to do before I draw my gun? All these things. And the truth is, you can what if that to death. Every situation, every gunfight, every fight, it's going to be different. It's going to have its own unique characteristics. However, it's also going to have some common characteristics. And in order to make those decisions at a split second, you need to have something already on board. You already need to have some information, some education, and some experience on board if you want to deal with that in an expeditious manner. You say, all right, well, I'm in the parking lot and I see this going down, or I'm, going home at night and I see this going down, or this is happening. How do you know how to make the right decision? How do you, unless your job is to be a policeman or a bodyguard or, a Marine, unless that's your job, you probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about that or dealing with it. Well, get your butt into a training class. Get your butt into more than one training class. And now there's a big difference between marksmanship training and fighting training. If you just want to learn how to slowly and methodically put bullets into the X-ring of a paper target at 10 yards, you can do that pretty much anywhere. But all that is mechanics. That is just a mechanical function. Putting rounds into the X-ring of a target at 10, 15 yards, that's great, and we like to do it. But that doesn't teach you how to deal with violent people. That doesn't teach you how to make decisions under stress. That doesn't teach you what you should do from a lawful standpoint or legal standpoint. None of that doesn't teach you how to do any of that. All that does is teach you the mechanics of holding onto a firearm, pressing the trigger, and putting the bullet into a target. And that's good, and you need to know how to do that, but there's a lot of other things involved in saving your own life with a firearm other than just pressing the trigger and delivering bullets. And if you there are a lot of schools out there that will teach you. Tactical Response in Tennessee will teach you. TDI, Tactical Defense Institute in Ohio, will teach you. Gunsight Academy will teach you. And I'm sure that I'm forgetting some. The Texas Pistol Academy will teach you how not just to shoot a gun, but how to fight with a gun in your hand. And if you have questions or you're not sure, and if you're not sure and you have questions, that's good. That means you're on the right track. It means you're thinking. It means that you are concerned, that you want to do the right thing all the time. Well, the best way for you to learn how to do that is to go to a class. Take the time, go to a class, spend the 48 hours or whatever it is, the 2-day weekend. Get out there and do it. And what that'll do is they'll put you in situations where you have to make decisions, where you have to think about it, where you have to make good decisions. So, like I said, you can what if stuff to death, but the best way to do it is to gain experience and training and then, broaden your mind so that when these things, you encounter certain things, you're like, okay, this isn't that big of a deal because, I've already addressed something similar. Now, let's talk about our Crossbreed holster winner. That's right. We've got a winner for week number 3. Our winner is Gary Austin of West Dover, Vermont. Now, we're going to send, we're talking about it right now, obviously, on Student of the Gun Radio, but we're going to send Gary an email, and we're going to tell him, Gary, you got 24 hours to respond, and let's hope that Gary does. But if you want to be a winner, don't forget, all you got to do is go to studentofthegun.com, sign up for our newsletter, and you are automatically eligible for not just our Crossbreed holster giveaway, which we're doing right now. We're going to be giving away stuff all season long. That's right. So don't forget about it. And remember, we're going to be giving away a KSG shotgun this season 4. And how do you get involved with that? How do you get your name in the hat? All you got to do is go to Student of the Gun, sign up for our newsletter. Don't forget about our good friends at Firearms Radio Network. You can check out all the firearms-related podcasts at firearmsradionetwork.com. And remember, you're a beginner once, but you should be a student for life.